The reward for winning the rat race is a fancier cage. This is Joe. Promotion email, the fleeting smile, the empty chair at his daughter's birthday, the sterile office at midnight, the silent treatment from his wife. Joe isn't failing, he's succeeding. At the wrong game entirely. I'm going to show you why the system is designed this way, how physics proves you've been measuring wealth backwards, and most importantly, the ancient blueprint that transforms everything. As an astrophysicist, I've spent my life studying how the universe works. And here's what shocked me. The same laws that govern stars and atoms are actively working against your happiness. Let me explain. In physics, there's a concept called homeostasis. It's the tendency of any complex system to fight to return to its stable baseline. Your body temperature, the salinity of the ocean, even your own happiness. Watch what happens in your brain when you buy something new. Like we discussed in episode 2, you get that hit of dopamine. It feels good, but to your brain, it's not a reward, it's a disruption. Your brain is hardwired to drag you back to its baseline, fast, which means you need a bigger hit next time. A nicer car, a larger house, a bigger portfolio. But here's where it gets strange. In quantum physics, there's something called the observer effect. The very act of measuring something changes it. When you observe a particle, you collapse infinite possibilities into one fixed reality. Now apply this to your life. Every time you measure your worth by your bank account, every time you check if you're happy enough by comparing possessions, you're collapsing your infinite potential for contentment into one narrow, never satisfied state. You're not just on a hedonic treadmill, you're the one powering it. But long before we had brain scans or understood quantum mechanics, Torah scholars revealed something extraordinary. A principle so powerful, it reads like advanced physics. Chach good, v'tzayin good. Think good and it will be good. This isn't just positive thinking, it's a statement of metaphysics. Remember the observer effect? The Hasidic masters understood centuries before Copenhagen that when you observe your life through the lens of faith, you are not deluding yourself. You are literally collapsing the quantum field of possibilities into a positive reality. This changes everything. It means true wealth isn't something you acquire, it's something you create, starting with your own consciousness. And from that foundation, the Torah gives us a blueprint while science backs it up. 5 pillars of a life so rich, it can't be measured in dollars. Pause this video to make your own list of wealth principles and mention them in the comment section below to see how well they agree with others. Does your list coincide with mine? Let's explore. 1. Purpose beyond yourself. 2. Community, your real safety net. 3. Family legacy. 4. Gratitude. And finally, 5. Generosity. Let's unpack each one. 1. Purpose beyond yourself. Here's what shocked me as a scientist. The Rush Memory and Aging Project tracked over 1,200 older adults for 5 years. Those with the highest sense of purpose, their risk of death was 43% lower than those with the lowest purpose. Not 5%, not 10%, 43%. But here's the Torah's deeper insight, and it connects to something I'll reveal about your brain in a moment. Dira b'tachtonim, making a dwelling place for God in the lowest worlds, here in the physical earth. When your purpose aligns with this divine purpose, you're not just finding meaning, you're literally channeling infinite energy into finite vessels. A teacher isn't simply transferring information, she's igniting souls. A teenager isn't just eating matzah on Passover, he's internalizing godliness. Purpose transforms physical acts into spiritual redemption. Joe had a purpose once. He wanted to provide for his family. But somewhere along the way, purpose got replaced by promotion. His why became his salary. But wait until you see what happens when you combine this with the second component, community, your real safety net. Harvard's 80-year study in happiness, the longest study of its kind, found one factor that trumps everything: relationships. Strong social connections increase longevity by 50%. Isolation is literally as deadly as smoking. The Hebrew word kahila incorporates kol, voice. A true community is where every voice matters, where your individual note contributes to an interdependent symphony. When a 2008 great financial crisis hit, who survived? Not the ones with the biggest portfolios, the ones embedded in strong kahilas, communities of mutual respect and responsibility. Joe's office has 200 people, but how many know his daughter's name? How many would notice if he didn't show up tomorrow? That's not community. That's a crowd with key cards. The Talmud in Bava Basra 9a says, greater is one who causes others to give than one who gives. Why? Because building community creates exponential wealth, spiritual capital that compounds across generations. But here's where it gets personal and deeply meaningful. Epigenetics shows that the values you live by literally alter your genetic expression. Your presence at dinner doesn't just affect your children's behavior, it can affect how their genes are expressed. The trauma or resilience you model gets encoded in their cells. The Hayomim for the 9th of Nisan teaches that children and grandchildren learning Torah and performing mitzvahs are the ultimate return on investment. Every moment of presence, every value transmitted, that's wealth that compounds across generations. You're not raising children, you're engineering eternity. Before we get to the last two pillars, I would love for you to join my exclusive newsletter where I write about these topics in more depth. The link is below the subscribe button, and it's free to join. I hope to see you become part of the community. Can you literally rewire your brain for happiness? The science says yes. Groundbreaking research on gratitude by Kinney et al. 2016 has shown that this simple practice physically alters your brain structure through neuroplasticity, strengthening the neural pathways in the parts of your brain that regulate emotion and pleasure. When you take a moment to be grateful, your brain can release a hit of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. This creates a powerful positive cycle, actively training your brain to seek out and focus on the positive. Remember Joe's fleeting smile at his promotion email? That's dopamine, gone in seconds. But imagine if Joe felt genuine gratitude for having work that lets him provide. That rewires the brain. Who is wealthy? One who is happy with their portion. That's Pirkei Avos, chapter 4. This isn't about lowering expectations. It's about recognizing that everything you have is precisely calibrated for your soul's mission. When you master this, you've hacked the system. You've found the exit from the hedonic treadmill, so much so that some argue this should have been the first principle. But there's one final component that activates all others, and it's so powerful, billionaires are giving away fortunes just to access it. Which brings us to the fifth component, the one that activates all the others, generosity. And this is where the Torah makes its boldest claim. Let me show you what the ultra-wealthy discovered about generosity. Andrew Carnegie gave away 90% of his wealth. His words, "The man who dies rich, dies disgraced." John D. Rockefeller, once the richest man in history, said that he would never be able to tithe the first $1 million he ever made if he had not tithed his first salary, which is just a few dollars per week. But here's where it gets even more paradoxical. R.G. Letourneau built a heavy machinery empire. His secret? He practiced a reverse tithe, giving away 90% of his income. He said God shoveled money back to him with a bigger shovel than he could use to give it away. Stanley Tam literally signed over his entire company, U.S. Plastic Corporation, to God. In his book, God Owns My Business, he insisted this was the sole reason for his explosive success. This principle is so powerful, it's become a modern business parable. The Go-Giver teaches that shifting focus from getting to giving is the ultimate key to success. Some call it karma, but the Torah goes deeper. The Talmud in Tainus 9a makes an astonishing wordplay. Aser bishvil shatis asher. Tithe so you will become rich. The Hebrew word for tithe, aser, is identical to the word for wealth, osher, when the vowels are removed. This isn't coincidence. It's godly law. And the Shulchan Aruch in Yoreh De'ah 247 doubles down with an audacious promise. One will never become poor from giving tzedakah. Never. Not rarely, not probably won't, never. This is a reflection of God's will. Now let's look at the neuroscience. When you receive something, money, a gift, a compliment, your brain's primary reward circuit, the mesolimbic pathway, fires up. This provides a brief spike of dopamine. But when you give, when you practice tzedakah, you activate an entirely different and more complex system. Instead of just a simple pleasure spike, you engage the brain's sophisticated social cognition network. You activate regions that allow you to take another person's perspective, including the anterior insula, which processes deep empathetic feelings. Physiologically, this generous act stimulates the vagus nerve, the superhighway of your body's calm and connect system. This activation can physically slow your heart rate and trigger the release of oxytocin, often called a bonding hormone, fostering a sense of warmth and trust that dopamine alone just doesn't provide. Jewish law gets specific. 10%, Meiser, that's the baseline, as stated in Yoredea 249. But the Talmud in Kesubos 50a says the ideal is 20%, Chomesh. Why the cap at 20? The same page in the Gemara explains, so you don't impoverish yourself and need tzedakah. The system ensures sustainable generosity. But the Alter Rebbe reveals the deepest secret in Tana Igeres HaKodesh, chapter 10. Tzedakah has a wondrous advantage, for it can atone the soul. Every dollar given doesn't just generate wealth, it literally repairs spiritual circuits. And therefore, he states there is no maximum to how much we should be giving. To paraphrase Iyuv chapter 2, just as we would give up everything we own to save our temporary physical lives, the Alter Rebbe argues how much more so in order to save our eternal spiritual lives. The Torah encoded this truth thousands of years ago. Generosity is not the result of wealth. It's the cause. So here's where we stand. The system wants you measuring wealth in dollars, chasing shadows, powering the treadmill. But now you know the equation. Purpose over profit, community over competition, legacy over liquidity, contentment over consumption, giving over getting. Joe could make this shift today. He could leave that sterile office at 4:30, make it to the next birthday party. He could transform his promotion into purpose, his network into real community. The question is, will he? Will you? In our final episode, I'm going to show you something that might disturb you. The system isn't just broken, it's about to reset. And when it does, only those who understand true wealth will thrive. We'll explore the biblical precedents for an economic collapse, the physics of financial cycles, and most importantly, the practical blueprint for not just surviving, but emerging stronger. Because here's the truth, you can't take your portfolio with you, but the wealth we talked about today, that travels beyond dimensions physics can measure. The question is, which wealth are you really building? Click here to find out the answer in the last episode of this 5-part series, Surviving the Economic Collapse, the Biblical Blueprint. See you soon.